So are you gonna ask my daughter out or not?
I lost him. This is it. I'm a goner.
I was overthinking things and overanalyzing things.
This could be the start of forever. Hi guys, welcome back to today's video. If you're new here, my name's Alora and this is my husband Kyle. Tomorrow, October 16th, will be our dating anniversary, and it will be how many years? 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years since we started dating. So our official dating day is October 16th of 2019. In honor of that day, tomorrow, I thought we would just sit down and share both of our perspectives of the events leading up to how we started dating.
Laura and I had been in the same church for probably a few years at that point. We had made a connection as far as getting a little bit to know each other on the surface, all the way back to when your sister and her husband started dating, engaged, and then getting married. So I know her husband-in-law, or
my
not
brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, yeah. I'm getting all these roles. Her brother-in-law, we grew up together in the same church for many, many years, and then he found your sister, and then when they got married, her sister started going to the church that I attended. And so then eventually, Alora started attending the same church as I have been attending for a really long time. And so then we started to see each other a lot more in youth groups and those sorts of things. Now, even though that was the case, we never necessarily looked at each other in that way as like a potential spouse or anything like that. Just two people in the same youth group at church. That's about it. Even
though Kyle was not on my radar, I always respected him as a person because I always thought that he was genuinely a kind person, and like that's something I noted well before we ever even started dating, was that he was super kind, really sweet, and also very soft-spoken was also something else that I thought was very unique about you.
Leading up to us becoming, boyfriend, girlfriend, in August of 2019, there was a church event that we had all gone to, and we, I think, ended up sitting at the same table.
Yeah.
And just kind of were chatting with, everybody else in the group that was there, which was all just mostly people from our youth group. And I guess just something was a little different that time around, making a little bit more personal connections besides just kind of the surface level stuff. And then that kind of, when you start to see somebody maybe a little bit more than what they were before, they kind of stick out more now. I feel like that was kind of how that changed at that point. But
yeah, I would say it was the first time we really had an actual conversation beyond surface level, as he was saying. And I really got to know him as a person and not just as like, oh, this dude that's in my youth group. Like, I actually got to know Kyle. Getting to know Kyle really sparked something within me. And I'll never forget leaving that event. I went straight to my car and I prayed. Because something happened like in my soul. Oh my gosh, I actually think I might like this guy. And because I took my future very, very seriously, I didn't want to just like treat this as like a whatever thing. Like I instantly went to prayer after that event, and I just sat in my car for a little bit in the parking lot. And I just prayed about it. I remember praying to the Lord, like, Lord, I just want your will. Like I'm feeling feelings for this guy. And if he's not the one, I pray, Lord, that you rip those feelings right on out of me. Like, I don't want to feel, if he's not the one for me, take those feelings away, shut the door. I also prayed the flip side of, if this is meant to be, that all the doors will open and that things will align the way they should be.
For me, when leaving that initial conversation, I thought, maybe there's a possibility here. But as we kind of go along through the rest of the story with our different perspectives, I was very much flip-flopping back and forth a little bit. Like, not necessarily in the sense that I didn't like Alora, but just that, is this really the direction I want to go?
So I drove home from that event, and I remember walking to the door, and I went straight to my dad, and I was like, there's this guy in my youth group, and I like him, I think I like him. And he was like, what's his name? What's his social security number? Where does he live? He's the very protective dad that you would expect. That is my dad. So my dad was aware that I had a lot of interest in Kyle and would be open to like really getting to know him and actually date for the first time ever.
As we kind of move along right through August and into September, for me, I'm kind of still trying to figure out if the feelings are even mutual. You know, does Alora actually like me back, or is she just being nice? And if that's the case, how long should we just kind of, you know, talk before, you know, asking for whether or not to be girlfriend, boyfriend, what's the right amount of time for that? You know, just kind of going through all of those questions and pondering a lot of that. And I remember like just when you would have something on, say, Instagram or whatever, I'd just respond to it a little bit just to kind of show continued interest. Like I remember one, you had made a dessert or something and then you stuck
cake.
it. Yeah. And it ended up being a fail or whatever.
So yeah, a little story to that. I made a cake and I basically frosted it the minute it came out of the oven. And this thing was literally falling apart. So I stuck it in the fridge. I held it up with some spatulas, praying it would just stay. And y'all, that cake looked like Caspian made it. It was so bad. It like was so funny because it was so ugly looking that you could just post it on the internet because everyone else has to enjoy the laughter as well. Yeah, I remember you slid into my DMs for that one.
So it was just a lot of like little back and forth things. And then I, of course, was talking to my parents as well because I usually would bounce ideas and things like that off of them. And, you know, I let them know there's this girl. Of course, they already knew who she was because she attended our church. So they were well aware of who Alora was. And, you know, I was telling them that things seemed to be going kind of fine. You know, she would carry the conversation. She wasn't like, you know, trying to end things quickly and, you know, all these different kinds of things where you're like, am I, you know, misreading signals here and stuff like that. And a lot of back and forth, where we would talk for hours just about what I should do. And, you know, it seems very complicated now compared to, you know, if I had seen the other side of things, it would have been a lot easier. But of course, at that time, I only could see my perspective on it. And then I think it was at the end of September or early October, we had another church event. It was a fall fellowship. And so then we were together again at this church event. And this was my time to really try to figure out like, okay, is she like really interested or is she not? So like I purposely tried to go out of my way to talk with her multiple times throughout the event and things seemed to go well.
Well, yeah, so that church event, I was so excited to see him. Okay, I dressed in my cute fall attire. I was wanting him to know that I was interested without explicitly saying that. So I did all the things that a girl would do to show a guy that she's interested. I dressed cute. I carried on the conversation. My sister had just had a baby. I made sure to hold that baby and show like mommy material. And like I did all the things a girl does when she wants to show a guy that she wants to date him. After that event, it was pretty confident, like, okay, I think I can say that he likes me. At that point, for me, it was just a waiting game. I figured like things were moving in that direction, so I just continued to pray about it.
And as you can kind of see already, like a lot of, but this is, you know, if you're not a Christian, but you're subscribed to the channel or you watch and stuff, well, thank you for being here. But you know, it is kind of definitely a different maybe story than what you guys would be used to seeing. Yeah. But where it's like, wow, there's a lot of people involved in this. There's a lot of family members and things. But that's where I guess like safety is involved, right? Where what does the Bible say? The Bible says that, you know, in a multitude of counselors there is safety. So yeah, I know a lot of people may not necessarily involve a lot of people when they're making these kinds of decisions, but for us that was kind of how it would work. So then I think after that, we're now leading up to the the moment where we're going to become potentially, boyfriend and girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. And even then, at that point, I'm still kind of in my head a little bit, just going back and forth about things. Definitely overthinking things at this point. As a guy, it's always a little risky, right? When you go out, you take that step and you're asking the girl, do you want to, go out, go on a date, be a boyfriend and girlfriend, those sorts of things. That possibility of rejection's always there. And so I guess for me, I was trying to minimize that as much as possible, almost to the point where it was like a guarantee type of thing. And maybe I shouldn't have done that. I should have just went out and just, asked. But the rest is history, so it doesn't really matter anymore. It would have been the 16th, I guess, right? It was a Wednesday, and it was going back and forth about what to do. And my dad had talked with her brother-in-law, because again, we're all going to the same church here, and in the case of me, my dad, and her brother-in-law, we had been going to the same church for quite some time, so we all fairly knew each other fairly well. And so he had asked him, like, do you think there's any possibility that Laura might be interested in Kyle? And he said, oh, the feeling is mutual, I think is the exact words, if I remember right. And so at that point, I was like, okay, it's obvious that this is going to happen. And so I just need to now go out and ask her dad. Now that, of course, that might be another thing that might be different for some of you, but for us, it's always been the guy has to ask the dad, and then the dad will generally most of the time say yes. And then at that point, you can start dating and stuff like that. So I had to go ask her dad, whom I don't think I had ever even met. No. So that was, of course, a little nerving as well. So I knew that at that time, her family, so her and her sister went to the church we go to now, and the rest of her family went to a different church. So I was going to be traveling on that Wednesday to a different church to talk to her dad about his daughter, and whom I never met, and all that stuff. So it's quite an interesting situation. So I went out and went through the whole church service. And interesting enough, you weren't there.
So I was actually babysitting that night. I had no idea Kyle was coming out.
And so then we end the service and, going around fellowshipping, talking with people and stuff. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, how am I going to bring this up to a guy that I've never met about, his daughter and stuff? How in the world is this going to work? And then somebody had suggested at that point that, hey, let's go to a quick bite to eat. At that time, Taco Bell was the restaurant that was chosen, just somewhere quick to sit down before everyone headed out. So I was like, sure, I guess I'll go, because that gives me more time to figure out what in the world I'm gonna do. And so we all went there, and we continued to have conversations there and everything. And then we get to the end, and we are leaving the restaurant. And I'm thinking, like, man, I still can't figure out a window of when I'm going to just, say this and stuff. And I'm like walking toward my car, and I'm like, well, I'm going to have to do this now or never. So I turn around and I look, and her dad is on the sidewalk just outside the Taco Bell as well. And, we kind of look at each other, and he just asks, so are you going to ask my daughter out or not? And so then I come over to him, and I was like, I was actually looking for the perfect time to actually ask that, so I'm glad you brought that up. So at that point, it became clear that, okay, he obviously already knows a lot of information already about things, obviously from you, and then of course your brother-in-law too. So, all of the people had already been well informed at that point. So
yeah, so the thing about my family is that we don't keep secrets amongst each other. The whole family knew that I had hard eyes for Kyle, so yeah, it was a whole family affair. During the Taco Bell interaction, I come home from babysitting, and my older sister is bombarding me with text messages that Kyle's there, and I'm flipping out. I'm like, what do you mean he's there? I feel like I'm on cloud 9. This is all new to me. Like, I've never dated before. I can't believe a guy that I like is wanting to ask me out.
So we talked a little bit, and then he mentioned that, of course we can, talk more later on and stuff like that, because, it's late and we just got, out of Taco Bell and stuff. So we're like, yeah, well, we'll talk more in the future. So he goes to his vehicle and I go to mine. We leave, and so then I dial up her number and call her, and then we proceed to talk for the whole car ride back for me. Probably about maybe 40 minutes of that drive we were talking, and then I got to the driveway and got out, and we continued to talk for probably another 10 to 20 minutes there. And obviously at that point, I had asked you as well, not just your dad, but then I asked you, do you want to date and stuff? And of course you said yes. And then from that point on, we started talking about what our first date was going to look like, when we should do it, and all that kind of stuff. And we decided to do it that weekend. So
yeah, that Saturday, October 19th, we had plans of going for a walk at a state park in the area, because that's a great place to go, and it was the fall time, so perfect place for a date. It was coming around lunchtime, and so I said, I want to cook something. I remember I Pinterest recipes for hours. I could not decide what I wanted to make him. And so I asked him, what's your favorite foods? And he goes, well, I like subs. And I was like, I can't cook subs, cold subs? You want me to just put things together? I gotta cook something. And so I thought, I'm gonna do a hot sub, something I can actually cook and show that I can cook. And so I decided I was going to do pizza subs.
To be fair, when I mentioned subs, I was purposely trying to pick something easy, because I was like, I'm not gonna make this difficult. It's the first date. I'm just gonna do something super easy here.
I decided ultimately to do pizza subs. The thing is, guys, I've never, at that point, I had never made any sort of hot subs. And so I was way in over my head. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought it was gonna be easy. Bread, marinara, cheese, pepperoni. Well, so come to the actual day that we were gonna have our date. It was Saturday, October 19th. Actually, before I kind of dig into that story, I made a journal entry that morning. I was really big into journaling, and so I decided this could be the start of forever. I'm going to document this day. So before the date, I wrote an entry, and then I wrote an entry talking about after the date, and I'll get to that later. Not only is today sweetest day, but it's also my first date with Kyle. He wants to take me on a walk in the park. I'm making some homemade pizza subs for lunch, because we all know a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I'm super stoked to get to know more about him. Come the pizza subs, okay? I get some bread, slap on some marinara, slap on some cheese, slap on some pepperoni, stick it into the oven. I pull these sandwiches out of the oven. Kyle arrived, we're both hungry, it's lunchtime. I serve us this sopping, soggy, wet pizza sub. I was gonna find out if he had texture issues right then and there. This thing, I took a bite and I was like, I can't. And he's eating this thing. He's not saying anything. He's just eating it. And I'm like, it's okay. I won't be offended if you can't eat it. And he goes, okay, I guess I'll just stop.
It was not the greatest, but I didn't want to offend either.
It was a very bad pizza sub, and in my head during that I was like, oh my god, I lost him. This is it. I'm a goner. I was apologizing constantly, I am so sorry about the pizza subs, I feel so bad. And he was like, the fact that you wanted to cook me something speaks way more than the fact that it maybe wasn't even the greatest. It was something along those lines. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I remember that. I think I went into a whole, you can get better at it if you put your mind to it. And clearly you already had the mind for it because you were like wanting to do really well on that. So you were definitely going to get better because you already had the mindset that you wanted to get better. So
yeah, like whenever I thought of marriage, something that was really important to me was that like I wanted to make sure that I made home cooked meals because I grew up with home cooked meals as a kid and see my mom cooking, and then dad came home from work, and it was just like a very traditional family life for me, and I wanted to take that into my own marriage. I wanted to show him that I have an interest in cooking. I was also hoping to show him that I could cook, even though at the time I literally could not cook, guys. Do you remember the time I made stir fry?
Yeah.
You guys, I made a stir fry for us on another date night, and I literally did rice, mixed veggies, and soy sauce, and that was it. Nothing to the sauce, just soy sauce. It was the worst stir fry I've ever had. I don't think we could finish that one either.
No, but I think that was the point where you finally were like, all right, I need to actually read recipes and follow them.
When he had told me about the whole, like, the fact that you even wanted to cook for me, like, speak so much more, that really gave me a lot of hope, I guess. Like, this guy is so sweet. Like, it literally didn't even faze him that this was the worst pizza sub in his life. So we did not finish our pizza subs. We go on our date and we talked a lot. We walked a lot. We talked a lot. And something that really stood out to me during that date was that it was really easy to just be myself. Another thing that stood out was there was some silences, as we were walking, like the conversation ended and we just were walking. There was no talking. And I remember thinking like, oh no, this isn't good. Like, it's the silence. Silence is not good, right? Like, you have to keep the conversation going. And I remember apologizing for the awkward silence. And he was like, oh, I don't mind the silence. Like, if this is going to work out, there's going to be moments where it's silent. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, did you fall down from heaven?
I think though part of it was also helping me too, because then I was like, putting out there my thoughts on things and hoping that you agreed, because then that would make life easier for both of us, because I didn't want the pressure of trying to keep the conversation going nonstop as well. So things like that helped, because I remember getting a lot of things off too, because as we mentioned earlier in the video, you probably already came to the conclusion that I was overthinking things and overanalyzing things. So when that first date, just kind of got it all out there as far as what I was thinking and everything, just got it all out there just to get it out. And then, I think and after that, it was just went really well.
So then that night, I did an updated journal entry as to how the date went, and I will share that and also kind of wrap up this video here. So the pizza subs were a total fail. The date was a total success. We walked all the trails in the state park and just completely enjoyed one another's company. For our first date, we opened up a lot with each other. We answered the elephant in the room questions, which had us both on the same page by the end. We are very comfortable with each other, which is super important to both of us. After our lovely 50-mile walk, just kidding, we went home and sat in the den. We were both obviously starving, so we had sour cream and onion chips with a chocolate chip cookie. We talked some more before the entire family came into the room. Oh boy, did he see my crazy family. All in all, my first date with Kyle was way better than I could have ever imagined. God has blessed me. And that was how we started dating. I'm going to end today's video here, and I will say we do have a video talking about our first year of marriage. If you'd like to check that out, I'll have that linked in the cards above. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out, and we will see you guys in another video. Bye, friends.